willing to withdraw their amendments.
My Lords, I thank the Noble Lord the Minister for his answer and everyone who's contributed to this short but I think very dense might be the appropriate adjective here debate. And I can't help feeling that perhaps for report stage, should we revisit this, as I suspect we may, we need to get a couple of IPQC, the KC specialists in here to perhaps hand it over to them rather than leave those of us who are not legal specialists in this area to tangle with it. And I do feel that the Noble Lady Baroness Wilcox of Newport really was the one who nailed this. This really feels like this is not properly worked through and certainly has not been able to be explained to your Lordship's house, and I think that's exactly where we've arrived at. I am going to put some more questions to the Noble Lord the Minister because I am really wrestling with this, and I freely acknowledge that I'm not an IP law specialist by any means. But how can something be that's patented be natural and traditional? It would seem those two things are simply incompatible in law and certainly in public understanding. That is what my amendment addressed, and I really don't believe the Noble Lord the Minister has dealt with that issue. More specifically and perhaps more concretely, and perhaps easier to answer, although I will understand if the Noble Lord the Minister wants to write to me. He referred to some of the tangles that occurred previously with GMO technology, where we actually saw farmers where seeds had blown from one field to another, and a farmer who had not even planted the crop then found themselves in legal difficulty with the owner of the patented crop because they were illegally growing the seeds, even though they didn't actually want them as seeds, and indeed some of them may have been organic farmers who definitely didn't want the seeds. Can the Noble Lord the Minister assure me that we're not going to see this situation arising with so-called precision-bred organisms in the UK, particularly, I think, in this case, plants? I'm not quite sure we're talking about animals so much. And also, what happens if we have a genetic trait that then crossbreeds or appears in a weed? What happens? Who's responsible for that then? Is the intellectual property owner responsible for what happens with the weed?
Well, that last point, that would have been dealt with in the process